Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We'll just wait a few seconds or 30 seconds to get everybody into the webinar, and then we'll start. Okay. All right. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Accelerate Outcomes with ServiceNow Platform Governance. Yes, there it is. You might have seen this before, or hopefully you have. Yeah, so I'm Michelle, and I'm the marketing manager in BusinessNow. And today we'll actually start with the agenda. So just taking a quick look at the agenda. First of all, we'll talk about understanding the platform governance in general, and then we'll move on to the 3 altitudes of ServiceNow governance. And then we'll jump on to pitfalls and best practices by altitudes. And in the end, we will look at how you identify what you need to know, influence, and execute. And the 2 exceptional guys doing this today, can you change the slide, Ted? Thank you. Is Ted, who just helped me changing the slide. Can you wave, Ted, and say hi?
I'm here. Hi.
Good. And Ted is like our Swedish, I don't know how to say it, but he's like super smart and has a lot of certificates. And he's actually also doing a very impressive education right now in ServiceNow. And he CMA, if you know that, he might say a little more about it. But he also has plus 25 years of experience in IT management and a whooping 12 ServiceNow certificates. Yeah, just he can probably name drop them better than me, but it's that's pretty impressive. And he's a Swedish guy, and it's the first Swedish guy we have presenting our webinars. And actually the first time Ted is presenting a webinar here in BusinessNow, and we're really excited for that. And he will be like the main attraction today, I can say. And moving on to the less impressive, no, I'm joking. Moving on to Søren. Say hi, Søren.
Hi.
So Søren is like the webinar legend around here, or like he's done a lot of webinars here, and he's also very capable of being in this webinar because he also has plus 25 years of experience in IT management. Plus he has like somebody calls him the ITIL Yoda or something like that, but he has like his ITIL experience. He has certificates in that as well, and he has not as impressive, but he has 5 ServiceNow certificates. So that's why he's the second role today. No, I'm joking again. Anyways, those 2 will be presenting today. Just some quick practical stuff before I give the word on to Søren. We have 45 minutes today. I already used some of them. This webinar will be recorded, and tomorrow you'll receive an email with all the links you need for our LinkedIn page, our YouTube channel, and the recording of this webinar, of course, so you can go and look back. And you will ask questions if you have any during this webinar. You can take your mouse down to the bottom of your screen, and a Q&A function should pop up. You can use to ask any questions during the webinar, and then Søren will be so kind to take in those questions and answer them, or ask Ted to answer them. And I also have a request to you that if you write a question, please put in your like information or something, so that if we by some reason or event don't have the time to answer it, then we will write you an answer afterwards. I guess that's all from me, and I'll come back in the end of this webinar, but please enjoy this webinar, and here's the word to you, Søren.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Just shortly about who we are, for those who may not know. we at BusinessNow, we're part of an organization, DXC, where we in Northern and Central Europe, we have a ServiceNow organization with plus 600 certified specialists out of more than 750 employees in total. So we have a lot of experience and expertise to draw on. And DXC globally, we have like 138,000 colleagues. We don't meet with them every day, but we're part of that organization. But basically, we are very local as well, because BusinessNow in Denmark and Sweden, we are plus 75 experts here with holding all these certificates and helping customers every day. So we have like 200 plus ServiceNow implementations across more than 70 clients, and more are coming every year. And just a comment on that, what we see changing during the past 2 or 3 years is that the mega trend here is that ServiceNow is moving out of the IT space, not moving out in the sense that it's not there anymore, because it's growing there as well, but it's moving out. And we are doing many projects, like between 15 and 20% of our revenue is around HR and governance, risk and compliance, and customer service management, and other areas which are actually outside the traditional IT space, which is why ServiceNow platform governance is quite a different game than it was just 2 or 3 years ago. So adding to this information about BusinessNow, we have a lot of very experienced employees, but we also have a program where we take in graduates from typically from the IT university or from business colleges, and we have a 2-year academy program where they get a lot of experience, and they really does a lot of great stuff for our customers as well. And adding to that, ServiceNow as such, we are one of a handful of global elite partners. So it's like we feel that we are part of a very special group where we are really passionate about helping our customers leveraging ServiceNow as a strategic platform. And the ways in which we do that is a lot through collaboration. We guide customers like you, I suppose, because we have tried a lot of things before, both on the technical implementation stuff, but also what we call digital business advisory, which is the team where Ted and I are part of, which is sort of more architecture and organizational people, process design, value streams, etc., and operating models in order to have a good implementation of ServiceNow, helping people have a healthy and efficient practice. So we help you with your challenges, and we love to do that. And we're really passionate about that too. And we sort of think that we are in the, let's call it in Danish, the Superliga amongst our peers. So we're really happy about that. Please go to the next slide. Thank you very much. So of course our expertise is ServiceNow, but also it's everything around having a good practice. So we're helping customers with a holistic approach. And what we really like is to keep things simple, and as Ted will cover in a few minutes, also keep them as out of the box as possible. And with that, I give the word to you, dear Ted.
Thank you, Søren. The first part of the agenda, understand platform governance. And first of all, I want to mention that you all, of course, have a possibility to ask me questions in Swedish and Søren questions in Danish, if you feel more comfortable doing it like that. But otherwise, we will stick to English for the duration of this presentation. What is governance? Well, overall, it's a decision-making framework that will help you accelerate your outcomes. And we do this by defining what decisions need to be made and when, who should be involved in the decision making, and how do we make the decisions. I will try to put this in context for you using an everyday sample that everybody understands, I think. I mean, the what part, the strategy in governance. In this sample, the context is your family. You want to create a great place to live for the whole family. So you set up a strategy or a vision for your life long term. You want to create an operating model that everybody's content with. And in this case, some short-term practices. You want to reorganize your laundry room, and you want to increase storage compartments within your home, for instance, by acquiring wardrobes and installing them. But what is then governance? Well, governance is actually the part that is rules within the family. And most of the times, those are not written rules. They are actually unwritten rules that everybody tries to follow. And I put some half joking, but half being for real. It's like, okay, keep the laundry in the laundry room. Remember that cooking should be a family activity. And the entry hall and the living room are not storage places for athlete equipment or clothes. So a little bit of fun, but we will come back to this picture in the end when we have actually walked through the concept of governance as per ServiceNow. Why should you invest in governance? Well, first of all, it should drive your transformation vision. What you want to use the platform for, what you want to do, how should it support your company strategy? Secondly, you want to deliver the right work at the right time, and doing this by streamlining the decisions and helping your organization to remove roadblocks by using a good governance plan. And last but not least, integrity of your ServiceNow implementation. And how do you do that? Well, by defining and applying technical best practices. And Søren, I know you have some input here.
Yes, thank you very much. So what we see here is that we have more and more customers who go to BusinessNow and say, can you help us from a more C-level, which means the top management of the organization, not the IT management, but the top management. Can you help us to support us in getting our platform back to out of the box? That is one thing where we think that governance with regards to ServiceNow needs to be enforced with more, let's say, intelligence or maybe knowledge that it has been in the past, so that we avoid too much non-out-of-the-box development work. Even though it's very nice to get things exactly as you want, it creates havoc down the road, not with one decision, not with 10 decisions, but with hundreds of decisions where custom tables and scripts and whatnot have been created, which are not part of configuration of ServiceNow, but is actually to using what ServiceNow can do with regards to customization. So we are involved in numerous projects now where we are putting, let's say, the portal back to an out-of-the-box solution, because somebody years ago, it could be us, but it was often also a competitor, has done very, very high level of customization. And therefore, people are still stuck on Helsinki release or whatever, Istanbul with parts of ServiceNow, which are simply impossible for them to upgrade without going back to out of the box. Thank you, Ted.
Okay, thank you. So then we continue with the next step here on the agenda. We will talk a little bit about how ServiceNow proposes that you set up your governance organization. And there are 3 best practice steps to establishing governance. And the first step is of course to prepare how to set up your governance. The second step is to how to define the process itself. And the third step, how you continuously improve your governance, organization, and processes. So over to step one. As a platform owner, you need help to define the scope, the direction, and goals. You need to plan how to set up your governance, and you need to identify who is going to be involved. And this is actually the big centerpiece of the presentation regarding governance in ServiceNow. You can see that there's a number of questions that needs to be answered within your governance organization. And if you are a large enough organization, you probably would set up those 3 different board levels. That you would have an executive steering board that defines the vision and strategy of using your ServiceNow platform. And they also are responsible for getting a budget and a resource allocation to manage it. You have a demand board, which is prioritizing the backlog, looking at the demands and deciding what should be developed or maintained within your strategy and vision. And they also look at and scope and sequence implementations that follow on your initial implementation of ServiceNow. And then in the end, but not the least, a very important part is the technical governance board. And this is the set of experts that should sit down, define the policies and standards, and also be responsible to review how the organization are adhering to the standards decided upon. And here we tie back to Søren's words about how do you maintain the value of the platform? Well, of course, it is to try to make sure that you can renew your releases and follow ServiceNow's release patterns to make sure that you can bring on new functionality and take the full value out of your investment.
And Ted, if I may jump in here.
Yes, please.
So what you also imply is that in a typical Danish and perhaps also Swedish organization, you would probably not need 3 separate boards, but the roles and the tasks are all relevant for good governance. And it may be one board, or it may be, I mean, you can organize it in different ways, and we've helped customers do that, but don't see this as a big bureaucratic monster, because of course it has to be sized and scoped to fit your organization. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that most of you are familiar with ServiceNow, so you know when you start reading the documentation and the recommendations about roles and definitions and roles and responsibilities and the hierarchy matrices and so on. I mean, you definitely know that you use a subset of these unless you're a very large organization. So the part we're going to step into now, pitfalls and best practice by altitude. This should be considered recommendations. Look at the list of roles as a list of something you could actually bring into your strategic governance. And as we said, I mean, strategic governance and an executive board, that is probably run higher up in the organization, because you need participants that have the mandate and the authority to make decisions, to assign resources and allocate budgets. So this is I would say, a very important part, that you make sure that this lands on people with the responsibilities and authorization to make decisions. And it should be decisions about more long-term. I mean, with long-term, I'm probably saying 9 to 24 months, which is, I think, is the most common part to talk about visions and strategies nowadays, whereas it used to be 3 to 5 years, but that horizon is shortening as the digitalization takes place and shortens the time frame basically for impacting how your organization works. Some of the pitfalls here. Well, there is no clear vision. The executive board is not able to set out the strategy and vision. You don't get the engagement from the stakeholders, or your sponsors or stakeholders lack authority to actually make sure that you have the resources assigned to do the work. When it then comes to the portfolio level, or the demand board. I mean, there's a different set of roles involved. I'm not going to talk through them. You will have this slide set afterwards, so you can have a look at it. But this board is supposed to be informed about the ServiceNow roadmap, and they should do prioritization of projects, initiatives, demands coming in. They should decide upon the scope of any project or initiative being launched within your governance organization. And they should also be responsible for recommending the implementation sequences. And of course, there are some pitfalls here as well. They are not supported by expertise helping them to understand what you should and shouldn't do within ServiceNow. So either you acquire that expertise internally in your organization, or you ask for help. About assessing business value. I mean, this is a really, really important topic within governance, that all governance decisions must be guided by whether they deliver business value or not. So always make sure that you set the criteria for how you want to assess the business value, and make decision that aligns with your strategy and bring value to the organization at all times.
Can I come with an example from real life here, Ted?
Yes.
So one of the things we see happening at customers is that because the demand for improving practice using ServiceNow is perhaps owned by somebody with not a clear business strategic perspective, you keep polishing things which are actually good enough compared to what you could do, investing in totally new areas that ServiceNow may be able to help you with. That might be governance, risk, and compliance, for instance, which is a big issue to do in an organized fashion in many companies. But you keep sort of polishing what the more IT-related stuff. So this prioritization has actually strategic consequences for, and who should make these decisions? They should probably be made on a, let's call it, business level. Thank you, Ted.
Yeah. So we continue with the technical governance level. And as well, you can see the roles are a bit different. This is more technically oriented or process oriented. For instance, you need to involve process owners to make sure that you decide upon the stories or the demands that you really want to process and put into production. They should set policies and standards. Look at integration standards so that you have a common policy or a common way of working with integrations, that you ease the burden and make sure that you don't get too much technical debt. And all of this with business value in mind. Make sure that you keep your instance upgradable, that you keep your whole ServiceNow platform upgradable and maintainable, so that you can follow ServiceNow's releases and or apply new functionality as it turns up within the platform. And I cannot underline that or emphasize it enough, because there's so much new technology coming over time on the ServiceNow platform. So keeping your technical debt low, and make sure that you always look at business value when you make your decisions on what to customize or what to implement. That will help you to get the most out of your investment over time.
And Ted, if decisions are being made regarding out-of-the-box or customization without some kind of rule book from higher levels in the organization guiding that, then it's really, really difficult to say no to a user. That may be, let's say, an HR manager who wishes to do something which ServiceNow is not capable of doing out of the box. And who should say no if there's no rule book, like you mentioned before with the house example? If there are no rules, then it's really difficult to say no.
And we will actually come back to that point, because we are going to, in a little bit later here, we are going to talk about something we call golden rules.
Yes.
So we will touch on that and actually help you with some tools in your toolbox to make sure that you have some rules to follow. Some pitfalls for technical governance. Well, reviews and updates, and that you look at the best practice or good practice guidance to set your standards, of course. And then we're going to turn into the final step, and I will actually rush through this one a little bit. You need to define metrics. I mean, find the measures that tells you when the governance process actually works. You need to work on removing bottlenecks, define them, question them, ask, is this something we really need to do or consider? And then make sure that you remove the roadblocks. And in the end, decisions. I mean, try to get the people that have the best ability to make the decisions to actually make them. Don't keep all decisions to the top of your organization. Try to push down, delegate, and do as much as you can, as close to the fact as possible, so to speak. Yes, and now we're going to wrap up a little bit, and I'm going to come back to that family context of governance in just a couple of minutes. So put governance in context. We talked about strategy, what you will do. We talked about an operating model, and that's the big fancy slide with all the boards on them, the executive board, the demand board, and the technical board. And you want to set the rule book, as Søren is talking about, define the rules by which you govern your platform. Back to the family context, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time this time, because now we have talked about the different concepts behind it. What? The strategy. Well, in this case, the great place to live for the whole family, that will involve some visions. And the visions in this case could be, all right, we want to build a new garage, and we want to have place for maybe a car, a couple of bikes, the equipment that the kids are using for surfing, playing hockey, golf, whatever you want. But we also want to extend the house long term. So we are planning for within 3 years to build a new part of the house where we keep the living room and the kitchen. That would be the strategy of your governance plan. The how, the operating model, is more the smaller things, what you need to do to actually make life easier, to fit them within your strategy. Well, what did we say? Well, yeah, we want this to be a great place to live for the whole family, not just for the kids throwing their stuff and their laundry in the laundry room on the shelf. I mean, we want to make this easier to comply to and to follow and work with. So we want to rearrange the laundry room, and we want to get more storage compartments within the house, so it's easier to keep it nice and tidy. And then the little bit of fun in the rules for the family. Yes, everybody do put their dishes in the dishwasher. Every room is cleaned at least once per week, a typical golden rule there. And as I said before, the entry hall and the living room, they are not storage places for equipment and clothes. And if everybody in the family tries to adhere to the rules we have set up, then we will find that our operating model is working, and we can continue working on the strategy. So some key takeaways to summarize. Governance is all about accelerating decisions and outcomes. This tended to be trying to avoid risk rather than actually getting decisions and outcomes from your governance process. So you should clarify who makes the decisions, where and how do we get the decisions made, and what are the outcomes the different boards, the different levels in your governance organization should deliver. First of all, your strategy, the company strategy, should drive the governance organization and the way the governance is making decisions. You should have a dotted line from your top level vision and strategy for the company down to how you actually manage and handle your systems, where ServiceNow as a platform is probably one of your bigger parts in the IT landscape. And last of all, make sure that you use the metrics, you remove bottlenecks, and you improve your effectiveness, improve the speed and the clarity of decision making. And then we come to tie this up, Søren, about the golden rules. You need to define some golden rules by which you act, something that you can hold in the hand when you're ambiguous about how to make a decision or how you actually want to move forward when people don't actually agree upon which road is the right one to take when they separate. A golden rule should be simple, clear statements that help to ensure governance decisions and activities are coordinated. For instance, we will be on the latest ServiceNow version within a number of months after release. We want to design and build based on out-of-the-box functionality as much as possible. And when it comes to integrations, you want to try to build integrations using out-of-the-box capabilities if possible, and only use heavy customization as a last resort. Some samples of golden rules before we wrap everything up here. Within governance, like I mentioned, future development and releases based on a formalized demand management process that you actually decide how long are you waiting until you try to always implement the next release that is available. And we're saying here, base it on automated testing and rapid deployment if you can. There is the ATF automated test framework available in ServiceNow, which is one of the tools in the toolbox that you actually can use to support you. Some samples of golden rules. I'm not going to talk through all of the points, but just to give you a hint that in the slide set, you have a few ideas here to support you. Within project design, within data, integrations, and meetings and workshops. Take them for what they are. It's a number of proposals on where you should and could start. And then finally, just to repeat and rub it in, accelerating decisions, get your outcomes from your investment. Governance should be driven by your company strategy. And make sure that you have metrics, that you try to remove the bottlenecks or the hurdles in your way so you can improve effectiveness. And don't forget about your golden rules.
Can I add something here?
Yes.
One of the golden rules that I would very much promote that you consider writing and enforcing has to do with data governance. And it was quickly on one of the previous slides, it was mentioned there as well. But some of you may have heard of the common service data model, where ServiceNow has designed a way to create entities and relationships that can connect the most technical parts of your infrastructure to actually the business services, the business applications and the capabilities. But in order to do this and have value out of this, for instance, in a risk, security, governance perspective, you need the data quality to be, the data have to be comprehensive and they have to be correct. So some sort of data governance should be part of your golden rules. Who owns the user table ServiceNow? Who is responsible for ensuring that users are actually, the user information is up to date and is correct, and etc. And the company table and business services, etc., etc. The data governance should be over time more and more elaborate and enforced in your organization in order to keep the ServiceNow platform healthy. Thank you.
Yes, and actually to tie into that, Søren, I was going to mention a few tools that are available on the platform, and they're actually non-licensed. Regardless of what you have purchased on the platform, you have access to these. So it's the instant scan that helps you to check, have you customized your platform beyond recognition? Data archiving, where you actually can set up rules for moving data from the production tables over to archive tables to speed up and keep the performance of your instance. And then you also have email retention. I mean, the same purpose as data archiving. Many organizations receive a lot of mail. So using email retention to remove the ones that are not interesting anymore for the system can improve performance significantly. And then tying into that about managing data, data certification is one of those tools that I really recommend that you have a look at, because that can be used for all tables on the platform to keep track of how's your data regarding health, and who should make sure that you monitor. You can even start creating tasks based on data certification to keep the data alive, make sure that it's correct and accurate. And I would also like to point out, like you were mentioning, CSDM, the Common Service Data Model, which is like a guideline on how you organize your services and your devices in the system. But I also want to put a big shout out for something which is called the Health Monitor, which is also related to CMDB. And you can access it through the CI class manager, the settings. And then there are, I know, a handful of dashboards that can support you with your CMDB health and make sure that your services and your devices are updated, with correct data. And it can help you to audit the data you have to help you to make the right decisions about what you need to improve or replace or update in the future. So that would be all for me. And then I hand it over to you, Michelle.
Thank you very much. Super interesting to listen to this topic. I really hope that other people had sort of like an aha moment as me, but maybe not quite as much as me. I have a quick poll. I really hope that you would answer this. So I'm just going to launch this poll. Just 3 questions on like the relevance, how well you think the knowledge was shared, and like if this lived up to your expectations. And this helps us getting better at our webinars every time. So we really appreciate you making this vote for us so that we can get better. And yeah, I'll just give it like 30 seconds while I say to you that it looks like we're giving you an extra minutes with you home today, and that's always great in a busy calendar, which I assume that you have as well. Today's webinar is recorded, as I said earlier, and we will share this recording with you tomorrow. You'll receive an email from Zoom, and in that email you'll get like all the relevant links. Ted sort of promised you the presentation. I'm not sure how to how I will solve that yet, but if you don't get the presentation, I'll make sure that you'll have a YouTube link so you can always access the slide deck that way. We just will have our LinkedIn channel where you always find the newest information. We have our YouTube channel where you can watch this webinar before you hit the end of this week. And you also have our newsletter. If you follow that, I'll make sure you have the links for everything in the email you receive tomorrow. And yeah, I guess I'll just end this poll. Thank you very much for answering that. Yeah, that was quite cool. And thank you to Ted, and thank you to Søren. That was a job well done, of course. And yeah, I will. Can you go maybe on to the next slide, just making sure I'm not forgetting anything, Ted? Let's
wait a second. Seems like I've lost contact with them.
Okay, so maybe it's not important. I guess what was on the last slide was something about thank you for attending, and also some contact information on me. Oh, here it is. So I know who to contact. So if you use this email address, I will make sure the right people receive it. But Ted also and Søren agreed on me sending their email addresses in the email you receive tomorrow. So you can contact them directly if you think they're very cool to talk to. I know a lot of people do. And here are also the links. I know you don't want to sit and type this in, so you'll also get them tomorrow. Anyways, yeah. So I guess that was it for this webinar about platform governance. I really hope you learned something new. And we will actually announce a new webinar very, very soon. So just make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn to see what's happening next. And yeah, thank you for listening, and have a lovely evening when you get to that. So let's wave and say goodbye, guys, and end before. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.